Hello, everyone. I'm Anas Al Ubaidi, and this is the sixth session or sixth lecture within Chapter 20 of the Advanced Medical Science Liaison and Medical Monitor Certification Course Program by CCRPS. As the chapter is about the specialized monitoring techniques, and the topic for this session will be about monitoring of endocrinology and gastroenterology trials. Introduction. Clinical trials in the disciplines of endocrinology and gastroenterology are essential for advancing therapies that target critical systems in the human body. The endocrine system governs hormonal regulation critical for metabolism, growth, and hemostasis, while the gastrointestinal tract is integral to nutrient absorption, immunity, and overall health. Trials, the trials in these fields, the endocrinology and gastroenterology, often deal with the chronic or life-altering conditions such as diabetes mellitus, thyroid disorders, the thyroid gland disorders, Crohn's disease, for short CD, as one kind of inflammatory bowel disease, and the other inflammatory bowel disease could be ulcerative colitis or UC for short, and irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, where monitoring plays a vital role in ensuring treatment safety, efficacy, and regulatory compliance. The key points for the topic. We'll start with importance of monitoring in clinical trials, safeguarding patient safety or participant safety. Critical need ensuring patient safety is paramount, particularly in these trials where conditions like severe hypoglycemia, like in endocrinological cases, or bowel perforation, like in gastroenterological cases, GIT cases, can emerge as severe risks. As for example, that applies into endocrinology, regular glucose monitoring in trials for insulin analogs to avoid hypoglycemia. Other example that applies into gastroenterology, early detection of perforation risks in Crohn's disease, CD, biologics, trials using imaging data and symptom tracking, maintaining data integrity, the data quality and the data integrity. The objective, a robust monitoring process ensures the accuracy and consistency of crucial data points such as hormonal shifts or endoscopic findings. As for an example, that applies into endocrinology, ensuring HbA1c levels are consistently measured and reported across all sites in diabetes studies or in diabetes mellitus studies. And here is a summarizing diagram on enhancing healthcare through comprehensive patient safety measures, as we have measures and protocols, quality of care and trust building in order to end up maintaining and safeguarding the patient safety. Example that applies in maintaining data integrity. Example that applies into gastroenterology. We have verifying image quality from colonoscopy data for uniform lesion grading in inflammatory bowel disease, IBD trials. And inflammatory bowel disease includes CD, Crohn's disease, and ulcerative colitis as of UC. Achieving regulatory compliance. Goal here adhering to guidelines such as ICH GCP, International Council for Harmonization's Good Clinical Practice, is integral to maintaining trial validity and facilitating smooth submissions to regulators. Example that applies into endocrinology, ensuring protocols for thyroid hormone replacement therapy include required safety reviews mandated by regulatory agencies. Example that applies into gastroenterology, tracking dietary impact alongside drug protocols per FDA, Food and Drug Administration recommendations in IBS, irritable bowel syndrome trials. The key takeaway here, as monitoring strengthens trial reliability, aligning safety, integrity, the data integrity, and regulatory compliance or regulatory goals towards successful outcomes. Methodologies for effective monitoring. Centralized monitoring. Description: remote data oversight using advanced data systems for immediate flagging of anomalies. Example that applies into endocrinology: real-time tracking of cortisol levels for Addison's disease from multiple trial sites. Another example applies into gastroenterology: monitoring fecal calprotectin trends in ulcerative colitis, which is a one kind of inflammatory bowel disease, or IBD, trials using centralized bioinformatics platforms. On-site monitoring. Description: hands-on observation and quality audits at trial sites to verify that processes meet protocol requirements. Example that applies into endocrinology: auditing compliance with blood sample handling protocols for growth hormone studies. And here is a summarized diagram on centralized monitoring benefits, as we have data consolidation, the data integrity or consolidation, real-time tracking, resource allocation, and timely responses, all ending up with enhanced decision making. And here, continuing with on-site monitoring, another example that applies into gastroenterology: ensuring that colonoscopy procedures for lesion assessment conform to technical guidelines and multi-center trials. RBM, risk-based monitoring. RBM description: directing resources to high-risk trials features to maximize oversight efficiency. Example that applies into endocrinology: we have prioritizing high-burden sites in a multi-center diabetes trial that show frequent AE, adverse event reporting or missing data trends. Example that applies into gastroenterology: intensifying scrutiny at sites with irregular endoscopy reporting in CD, Crohn's disease trials. Endpoint specific monitoring. Example, description first for endpoint specific monitoring. Description: focused tracking of trial specific outcomes to ensure endpoint accuracy. Example that applies into endocrinology: monitoring post-treatment testosterone levels in androgen replacement studies. Another example applies into gastroenterology: capturing mucosal healing scores as primary outcomes in inflammatory bowel disease, IBD therapy studies. Adaptive monitoring. Description: modifying monitoring activities dynamically based on trial progress and findings, based on a trial interim progress and findings, meaning flexible approach kind of monitoring. Example that applies into endocrinology: scaling up monitoring for adverse effects, AEs mid-trial, and thyroid hormone modulator studies. Example that applies into gastroenterology: increasing focus on patient compliance in high-risk regions for pancreatitis drug trials. The key takeaway here: as effective methods combine on-site vigilance with centralized and risk-based approaches to optimize trial oversight. As in any implementation within a clinical trial, there is always challenges to face. So challenges in monitoring endocrinology and gastroenterology trials: high variability across sites. Issue: variability in sample collection, laboratory procedures, or clinical assessments hampers consistency, and solution resolution for that implements stringent training and standard operating procedures, SOPs, across all participating sites. The complex endpoints. So, in endocrinology and gastroenterology or GIT trials, the nature of the endpoint would be complex endpoints. While on the other hand, as we discussed in a previous one of the previous sessions, for neurology clinical trials, it is subjective endpoints. The nature of the endpoints are subjective. So here, complex. Endocrinology frequent hormonal fluctuations demand precise timing and measurement. Example, standardizing thyroid stimulating hormone and TSH testing to ensure proper diurnal timing. And, and here we have a diagram on how to address variability in trials as we have standardized procedures, site-specific strategies, and enhanced training. Then we have the other sections of complex endpoints for endocrinology. Now, for gastroenterology, interventions like biopsies and imaging require trained personnel and calibrated machines. As for example, harmonizing colonoscopy equipment across sites to ensure uniform lesion grading. We have recruitment bottlenecks, description rare conditions such as acromegaly, as for an example for endocrinology trial, or severe Crohn's disease CD as one example for GIT gastroenterology trial. Post enrollment challenges. A solution for that use dedicated disease networks and advocacy groups for engaging potential recruits. Networking as well could be our partnership could be useful as well. Long study durations impact high attrition rates and can destabilize data collection. Solution resolution for that is to use wearable adherence tools to strengthen patient engagement and compliance. The key takeaway: proactively addressing these challenges ensures higher data accuracy and participant retention. The recent advancements in monitoring, as we have integrated wearable devices and endocrinology, devices that continuously monitor glucose, thyroid, or metabolic metrics. Example, continuous glucose monitoring, CGM systems, and diabetes studies reduce delayed risk reporting. Gastroenterology devices that analyze motility or inflammation remotely. Example, capsule endoscopy to assess the small intestine non-invasively. AI in data analysis, artificial intelligence in data analysis as another advancement. Description AI algorithms improve accuracy by detecting trends and anomalies across large datasets. Example, AI, artificial intelligence software, identifying inconsistencies in inflammatory biomarker data for ulcerative colitis or UC studies. A summarizing diagram describing the components of integrated wearable devices, as here we have connectivity features, health monitoring, and activity tracking. Another advancement, decentralized and hybrid trials. Description: patients record key endpoints at home using virtual platforms and connected devices. Example, remote patient self-reporting of GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, as example of GIT or gastroenterology trial, symptoms paired with wearable monitoring for esophageal pH levels. Advanced risk dashboards, description real-time analytics platforms consolidate data streams to flag risk trends across sites. Example, dashboards highlighting sites consistently underperforming in HbA1c recordings for diabetes studies. The key takeaway: leveraging cutting-edge technologies enhances precision, scalability, and participant comfort. By mastering these strategies, medical monitors the MMs, or advanced physician medical monitors, can adapt to the complex requirements of endocrinology and gastroenterology trials, ensuring their success through meticulous and innovative oversight mechanisms. Upcoming tables to summarize what we have covered through this lecture, as we have table on monitoring methodologies, methodology description example. Methodologies, we have centralized monitoring, on-site monitoring, risk-based monitoring, RBM, endpoint-specific monitoring, and adaptive monitoring. Then another table on challenges and solutions or resolutions, as we have the challenge, impact, solution. Challenges: site variability, complex endpoints, recruitment bottlenecks, long study duration, and multi-site data overload. Another table of endocrinology trials focus, as we have parameter, monitored endpoint, and example application. The parameters, we have hormonal variations, blood sugar levels, biomarkers, adverse events, AEs, and then drug response timelines. Another table on gastroenterology specifics, focus area, critical data, example application. Focus area, we have endoscopic imaging, patient reported symptoms, biomarker panels, safety markers, and adherence measures. RBM, table on risk-based monitoring, component action example application. As components, we have high-risk variables, data-intensive parameters and term adjustments, participant safety checks, and then central data reviews. Application table, scenarios. For each scenario, we have key principle applied, key actions, timeline, what to watch out for. As scenarios, we have monitoring glucose levels in diabetic patients, tracking imaging consistency in Crohn's disease trials, adherence in long-term obesity trials. Continuing with scenarios, we have recruitment in pediatric gastroenterology trials, and then real-time thyroxine monitoring in thyroid studies. Next, we will be reviewing or revising through some of the multiple choice questions or MCQs, what we have covered through this lecture. Question 1, what is the primary benefit of centralized monitoring in endocrinology and gastroenterology trials? Is it A, reduces the need for endpoint specific monitoring, B, improves real-time data collection and analytics, C, eliminates protocol deviation risks entirely, or D, focuses solely on patient recruitment? So, as primary benefit of centralized monitoring, so when we talk about centralized monitoring, when we hear centralized monitoring in clinical trial, we are talking about real-time data collection and analytics. So, it would be B, as B is the answer. As centralized monitoring enables trial managers to remotely track lab results and other critical data, facilitating real-time oversight and early detection of anomalies in trials. Question 2, what technique can improve adherence in long-term gastroenterology studies? Remember, the keyword here is long-term adherence. So is it A, increasing recruitment criteria, B, weekly manual investigator review, C, implementing wearable adherence monitoring tools, or D, reducing site involvement in monitoring? So the most reasonable applicable answer on long-term adherence, in order to be improved, the technique to be used is C, as implementing wearable adherence monitoring tools. C is the correct answer, as wearable devices help track patient adherence by providing continuous monitoring of activities and compliance, addressing challenges like attrition in chronic condition trials. Question 3, why is endpoint-specific monitoring critical in endocrinology trials? As we remember, the nature of the endpoints in both gastroenterology and endocrinology trials is of complex nature. So why the endpoint-specific monitoring critical in endocrinology trials? A, to standardize the recruitment strategies. B, to track precision parameters like hormone levels. C, to reduce imaging variability. Or D, to simplify data collection methods. So definitely is to track precision, because we need precision data, precise input. So to track precision parameters like hormone levels, as hormone levels applicable to endocrinology nature of or kind of trials. So B is the correct answer, as endocrinology trials often require precise monitoring of complex endpoints such as TSH, testosterone, or HbA1c levels to measure drug efficacy accurately. So question 4, what is a common challenge faced in inflammatory bowel disease, IBD, clinical trials? Common challenge. A, recruiting participants from rural areas. B, low population variability. C, variability in data due to diverse biopsy and imaging techniques. Or D, lack of advanced monitoring tools. So B and C might be very much similar in talking about or reflecting the variability, as low population variability may be applicable. But as we remember, the complex nature of endpoints and both endocrinology and gastroenterology clinical trials. And IBD clinical trial, it is a gastroenterology or GIT trial. And as long as complex endpoints here will be more applicable to C rather than B, as C, variability in data due to diverse biopsy and imaging techniques. And the variability in data within or due to diverse biopsy and imaging techniques, one of the points that will make the nature of the endpoints in gastroenterology clinical trial, as was described earlier, or classified as complex. So C is the right answer, as imaging and biopsy procedures often vary between sites, leading to inconsistencies in data collection and requiring by the end uh, centralized protocols to maintain accuracy. Question 5, how do adaptive monitoring strategies enhance trial accuracy? And as we remember, adaptive approach or monitoring or adaptive method, meaning a flexible design of monitoring. So, A, by eliminating the need for centralized oversight, B, by prioritizing endpoints after interim analysis, C, by increasing recruitment timelines, or D, by discarding risk based practices. So, why do we need flexible nature, flexible design of monitoring as it is within adaptive? In order to be more flexible, to accommodate or to cope or to adjust or modify or amend the trial within ongoing findings or outcomes. And by ongoing means in term, so in this case, B, by prioritizing endpoints after interim analysis. Uh, so the B is the correct answer. As adaptive monitoring adjusts site oversight and trial focus in response to interim ongoing trial results, ensuring high-risk variables are continuously tracked and addressed effectively. And here we come to end of this lecture. Thank you very much and goodbye.